BBC News. Hello, I'm Jerry Smith. Efforts are underway to repatriate hundreds of thousands of tourists left stranded after the collapse of the travel firm Thomas Cook and its subsidiaries. Most of them are British and German. The government in London has described the operation to fly them home as its biggest peacetime repatriation effort. Tim Johnson, the policy director of Britain's Civil Aviation Authority, explained the challenges involved.
The timeframes within which we've had to put together this fleet of aircraft, so that's up to 45 aircraft that we're going to have to manage the repatriation. We've had to get all the information about passengers and flights from Thomas Cook. We've had to make sure both arrangements are in place at the UK and the departing end at those airports to make sure the arrangements can work. So it's a big coordination exercise.
There have been warnings from the Greek and Turkish tourism industries that the collapse may cause a significant fall in visitor numbers. The French medicines watchdog and the pharmaceuticals firm Servier are going on trial in Paris for alleged fraud and negligence over an anti-diabetes drug that's thought to have cost at least 500 lives. Prosecutors say regulators delayed banning the drug, Mediator, until 2009, despite concerns that it caused heart damage. Servier marketed the pill as an appetite suppressant. An estimated 5 million French people took it from 1976 onwards. At least 7 children have been killed and nearly 60 injured after a classroom collapsed at a primary school in the Kenyan capital, Nairobi. Rescue workers and parents were digging through the rubble in search of survivors. Ferdinand Amondi is outside the school.
Lots of questions about the structural integrity of this school. I've spoken to an architect who says it was a disaster waiting to happen. It is basically a structure of iron sheets and wood, but there was a slab placed on top of it and another building put on top, which he says was not able to hold that weight. And you add children on that, that is what happened to it. But obviously the government will have to do its own investigations and give a report as to what may have happened. But it does seem that this building was not supposed to be a story house to begin with.
Spanish police have arrested 9 Catalan separatists suspected of planning violent attacks. Experts are trying to establish whether they've been trying to manufacture explosives. With more details, here's Mike Sanders.
Police say the suspects were planning attacks to mark the second anniversary of Catalonia's unauthorised independence referendum on October the 1st. There's also tension ahead of the verdicts on 12 Catalan separatist leaders who organised the drive for independence. They deny sedition and rebellion. Reports say those arrested are in what are known as the Technical Response Teams, seen as the most militant arm of the Republican Defence Committees that separatists set up a month before the referendum to carry out its implementation. Police say they found material for making explosives. Separatists say there's been no violence in their campaign.
BBC News. A splinter faction of the Nigerian militant group Boko Haram has released a video which appears to show 2 men in orange jumpsuits being put to death. The so-called Islamic State West Africa province says the victims are Christian soldiers from the Nigerian army. It said the soldiers had been captured earlier this month during an attack in Borno State in the northeast of the country. Afghan defence officials are investigating who died as a result of a government airstrike in the southern province of Helmand. There are conflicting reports about whether civilians as well as suspected militants were killed. Our South Asia editor Jill McGivering reports.
The government airstrike hit a suspected ammunition store in Musa Qala, a strategically important Taliban stronghold. Various officials say between 14 and 22 suspected militants died, including foreign fighters. But there are also reports that as many as 40 civilians were killed. Eyewitnesses suggest they were guests at a nearby wedding. They may have been caught up in a ground offensive by Afghan special forces following the airstrike. Correspondents say it's the first time for years that Musa Qala has been hit and comes just days before presidential elections.
The brother of Algeria's ex-president Abdelaziz Bouteflika has gone on trial along with 2 former chiefs of the country's powerful secret services. They're accused of undermining the authority of the army and conspiring against the state. The World Anti-Doping Agency, WADA, is launching a formal inquiry into what it calls inconsistencies in laboratory data provided to the organisation by Russia earlier this year. WADA says it's given the Russian anti-doping agency 3 weeks to respond, adding that the authenticity of laboratory data was a critical condition imposed following Moscow's 3-year suspension from international competitions for running a state-sponsored doping programme. BBC News.